Okay, Year 11, so your week 2 task is this one on Romeo and Juliet, and you have to read an extract from Act 2, Scene 2 and answer the question that follows at the bottom. You're not expected to write a full response. You are, however, expected to write your first paragraph on this page here. So to illustrate what to do today, I'm going to use a different extract. I'm actually going to look at the prologue of Romeo and Juliet so that you can see what to do, but you're being independent and I'm not obviously just feeding you the answers based on the extracts that you have. So I'm going to look at the prologue with a focus on fate and destiny. Okay, so whatever your question is, just highlight the key word in the question. We always keep coming back to this key word in the question because that has to be the focus of your response. So fate and destiny, obviously. Fate, it's the idea of, if I just shuffle that up, fate is where we're thinking about what is going to happen, what somebody's end will be, you know, how things will finish for that character. It's also the idea that fate can sometimes be out of our control, so we can't, you know, have control over everything in our lives. And destiny is the idea, obviously, that we are destined for something. So again, it's the idea of how everything's going to come about for these characters. So if we have a look at this little section, and I'll just illustrate how to read full meaning carefully, pick out a few quotations with you, and then model how to write up one paragraph. So, two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. So it's the idea, ancient grudge to new mutiny, I might highlight. That's the idea, obviously, of conflict. And then we've got here the repetition of civil, the irony of civil as well, because what they're doing is not particularly civilised. So it just gives us a little bit of a backdrop to the story, essentially. Okay, and from these fatal loins, the word fatal obviously means deadly. So again, it foreshadows that word we've talked about a lot in lesson, what is going to happen next. So if we're talking about fate and destiny, you might discuss foreshadowing, which I'll just write at the top there. Okay. A pair of star-crossed lovers. Well, that would be a fantastic quotation to use because it talks about fate and destiny now, because it foreshadows the terrible end for Romeo and Juliet. And it's the idea that their love is written in the stars, which, you know, links to fatalism, to celestial imagery. So as you go through, have a highlighter, obviously, but also have a pen so you can start to pick out and make little notes to yourself, and this is the process that you will go through in your examination as well. Okay, so it's just picked out a few keywords there. So if I just show you the structure that you can use for this, now this obviously is very simplistic, but it is a very good way to help you formulate your ideas. Okay, now in your examination you'll be after doing this 3 times, finding quotations from your extract. For this piece of homework this week, you only have to do 1. So I would use these sentence starters in your pack. So, with reference to the extract in your pack. So in the extract, Shakespeare uses, in this blank space here, you're after the device that Shakespeare uses. Okay, so our devices, we've got a list of them in our exercise books. So it might be, for example, metaphor. It might be simile, you know, particular semantic field of lexis that you've spotted. Okay, to present ideas about, that's where your keyword comes in. So if you have a look at the extract and question in your booklet, it actually talks about obsession. How he presents idea about obsession, okay, in the play. Okay, that's how I'd start. Then obviously you pick out 1 quotation, so I'll just write here, quote, from what you've read in your pack, and then you've got to say what it implies, what it shows, what it demonstrates. You pick the word there that you think is the most apt, okay? And then, if you can, it could also show, imply or demonstrate. And then this is where we zoom in on our key language. So you're picking out a keyword from your quote and talking about it in more detail here. You can put the word if you're not sure what word type it is, but you know, again, for those fours, this is what we need: adjective, verb, noun. You can look it up if you want to support yourself with that. What might that word suggest? And then finally, think about audiences at the time, how they would have responded to this. Okay, so to give you an idea, I'm just going to help write up based on this quotation from the one I've done here, a pair of star-crossed lovers. I'm going to show you what that might look like so you can see very carefully how much you're aiming to write. So I'll try and write clear as I can. In the extract, Shakespeare uses a metaphor, star-crossed lovers as we know, to present, that's a bit wobbly there, ideas about fate and destiny. So that is my opening sentence. Okay, so I've got my device there, I'm talking about the keyword there. So if we go back to that, already I've done that first section and I can tick that off there. Okay, so now I'm going to have my quotation. So a little comma, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Okay, and then I'm going to have a think. Right, what could this demonstrate? What could it show? So I'm going to start with this. Foreshadows, that word we had on our extract. This foreshadows the terrible end for Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, but implies that their fate is written in the stars. You might even go to your flashcards, because a pair of star-crossed lovers is one of our gold quotations. You might have a look on the back of your flashcard. What did you write about that quotation? Could you add any more there? Okay, you could add obviously other things to this. You could talk about their love is meant to be. Stars have connotations of happiness and love. The noun star suggests that their love was dead long before they ever came together. And then you could contextually link that to courtly love, as audiences at the time might have seen their love very negatively because it was a taboo for two people to associate themselves with one another if they weren't actually intended to be married. Okay, folks, so in its basic form, this is what you're after. You've got your introduction, you've got your quotation and this bit here, but obviously you now need to zoom into language. Okay, so the next stage would be I talk about the noun star here, and then you can finish it off from there. Okay, folks, so do keep in mind this is based on a different extract to the one in your booklets, but the method is still exactly the same. Good luck, Year 11.